And before I did this job, I used to be a school teacher, right? And are there any teachers in here? A whole bunch? What do you teach, honey?
So, before we start today, it's elephant in the room time. Yes, this guy is, allegedly, a comedian. The things he is saying are apparently supposed to be humorous. Emphasis on the supposed to be, and some of you may well be thinking then, are these jokes? They does not to be taken seriously. And to that, my eloquent friend, I say two things. First, many comedians would in fact say that they use their comedy to tell the truth to the man, and other cringe shit that can be technically true, but it's kind of lame to just come out and say it. So these could likely be genuinely good points in his tiny little pea brain. And second, even if that is not the case, even if it is 110% a bit, it seems that his audience were the one group who weren't let in on the joke. Cause whew, there's a lot of stupid people agreeing with the premise. So this video goes out to all the creationists who think evolution is super funny while actually being the biggest jokes of all themselves.
Junior high, what class? Who? Food and nutrition. Do you say science too? Yeah. That's all PE.
What do they say? Those who can't teach. Those who can't even do that teach PE. Although, frankly, to be fair, the schools I went to, most of the teachers who taught PE also taught one or more other subjects. So the whole PE teachers am dumb concept never really landed with me. And hell, the one who did exclusively do the sports stuff was like a sports science guy and would draw these insanely accurate diagrams of leg muscles and shit. So yeah, although I do get the feeling that you might buck that trend and not fit into either of my particular categories.
Don't laugh. Everybody in here's PE teacher looked just like me. Well, the woman ones did. That's true if we're honest with each other, and I feel like we are.
Again, hate to knock down another fun and reductive stereotype, but the female PE teachers at my school varied wildly in physique, from dainty to fairly built. And you remind me of neither, since you're, of course, not a hella graceful gymnastic types, but nor do you look tough enough to take on Mrs. Smashy Face, my favourite teacher who everyone liked because of how much he never caved my face in.
Come on, let's open up a little bit. You said science? Do you believe in science? It ain't real.
So this is where I think people trip up and think that he can't possibly be serious. Because sure, he's probably not actually this goddamn ignorant. Who could be? So when the actual meat comes up, they assume those are jokes too. But that makes me seriously question how long you've been on the internet. People could be way dumber than that by orders of magnitude. And again, even if nothing he says in this entire segment is supposed to be taken seriously, it doesn't matter because enough people do that to render such a point moot. And I am simply going to have to treat it all as earnest. Also, I just said doo-doo, proving that I'm already the superior funny man as well.
It's stupid. You don't believe me, really. We're all adults. We can be honest. Like, do you really believe in it? You think it's real? You love chemistry?
Science kinda is stupid. Science doesn't know everything. Science gets things wrong. And science can't be used to answer certain types of questions. But that is kinda the point. There is no overarching thing that can answer every single question, that never gets anything wrong and has no subject that it can't attempt to cover. But science already knows all of that. That's what makes it useful. But, I mean, certain religions think that they are that, but that is because they are way stupider than science could ever possibly be. Mostly because many religions try to be everything to everyone, meaning that they will always fail and have no idea that that is the case while they do so.
That ain't real. They just make that stuff up. Every generation's thought they had science figured out. Nobody did. You used to get a cold and they'd bleed you. Oh, he's the smartest guy in our village. What's...
Well, aside from the fact that you aren't really talking about science, you're talking about folk medicine, or what we today would likely call alternative medicine, which funnily enough, when we did actually do the science on all of those, we figured out which ones actually work and called them medicine, making alternative a synonym for doesn't freaking work. But even if your point were valid, that the old things that were science turned out to be wrong, You know how we figured that out? Using science, dumbass. The fact that science is constantly getting more correct and less wrong is exactly the reason we used it in the first place.
I always felt like I was falling behind in science class when I was a kid, and I figured out why.
Ah, well done. It only took you, 30 years or so after the fact to realize that you are a giant moron? Hey, that's not a dig. That's actually pretty impressive, because some people never figure out that they're an idiot. I mean, there's this guy I know who keeps doing the dumbest shit on the other side of a window in my house. Unfortunately, whenever I try to stop him, I keep bumping my head into something.
It's because science teachers, they speed through everything so you don't have the time to ask any questions, and by the time they get done, they just give you a D, and you're like, all right, I'm cool with that. I go to 7th grade, and we can do it, whatever. That's the game.
So, two things. One that suggests more a case of you couldn't keep up rather than it was a case of going too fast, because schools tend to base their curriculums on being able to include pretty much everybody, and they tend to explain things pretty extensively for the most part. If you couldn't keep up, you might just be dumb. And second, teachers, especially science ones, absolutely love questions. Christ, if I ever wanted to get out of having to do some actual work in science class, all I had to do was ask them to explain concept X or challenge concept Y, and then they could go on for literal hours before even noticing that, well, classes are only an hour long, so we'd already gone. But yeah, that just suggests not only weren't you keeping up, you weren't even aware that your classmates were definitely asking them too, and getting answers to boot. I think this may well be a you problem, mate.
I remember when I was a kid, they never let me ask any questions. The teacher would be like, all right, boys and girls, everybody open up your books to page 52.
Oh, right, yep, I think I see what's happening here. That complete and total bastard of a science teacher gave you a completely impossible task. I mean, seriously, turning the pages of a book and being able to count over 50? Who does he think you are, some kind of high-tech robot guy from the future? No wonder you couldn't keep up if they're pulling that shit on you. Everybody knows that real science is done with crayons, and the highest number they ever should use is 7.
All right, kids, look at the diagram. Check this out. A long, long time ago, all of us in here used to be monkeys, right? Then we turned into this Chewbacca circus carnival freak show looking thing, but now we're all people. Next chapter, move on, no questions.
Well, that definitely didn't happen for so many reasons that it's hard to know where to start. I mean, it's highly scientifically illiterate. Again, could be for comic effect, but this is something creationists think happen inside classrooms, usually because they've never been in one, and they think that this is what science actually claims, when it's just not. Humans didn't used to be modern monkeys. We share a common ancestor with those modern monkeys. Also, it's not even remotely this brief. Teachers, again, tend to like explaining things, especially science things, to the extent that I would sometimes actually ask them questions because I was legitimately interested in something and not just trying to avoid doing coursework, which shows just how effective an engagement tool allowing questions is. Perhaps you should have actually asked some instead of pretending you never had the chance.
Well, guess what? I had questions. How come monkeys are the only animals that were ever allowed to turn into people?
Wow, I think my brain just ejected from the sheer force of stupid. Goddamn. So for one, I don't believe you had them at the time. I mean, you could barely keep up, apparently. Now, apparently, you're able to form whole sentences without collapsing through the floor. A likely story. And second, even if you could, that question doesn't mean anything. How come any animal is the only one that is that animal and also has a particular ancestor? That's like asking how come I'm me and my parents are my parents and not literally everyone's on Earth's. It's because that's how genealogy works, you dunce. Now, if you asked a less stupid question like, why did humans become the dominant force on this planet, with no other animals seemingly coming close on their effect on the environment, which avoids the trap of thinking that being allowed is even a factor, and also gets to an explanation for how humans became the way they are. You know, he had time to write this and still came up with something that is completely worthless. It's depressing.
Yeah, how come there's no two-legged giraffe with a short neck walking around vaping? Because it ain't real.
Well, first off, you haven't met Nigel the vaping giraffe, Lisa the rainbow giraffe's hipster nephew. That incredibly dumb hypothetical demonstrates that you can't comprehend how evolution works. What on earth makes you think that the human shape is even remotely ideal for an apex species? If another species ever reaches the same level or beyond that of humans, there is literally no reason to think that they would be humanoid. In fact, that's rather elegantly proven to be a stupid idea by the fact that generally the worst thing to make a robot, there's so many other, more stable and elegant layouts that an intelligent creature could be, and it shows a real lack of imagination and no small amount of human chauvinism to think it's the only way intelligence would ever express itself. I mean, shit. Dolphins have a relatively close to human level intellect, and it's unlikely that even if they do get much smarter, that they will then suddenly morph into a weird top-heavy gangly freak for no reason, or that they would even move out of the water at all.
Yeah, not to mention the fact we still got monkeys.
Well, if it isn't Creationism 101, the dumbest argument that ever existed since the ever. 'Cause yeah, you shouldn't mention the fact that there are still monkeys, 'cause it demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of what evolution even does. Let me put it this way. It's a bit like asking why are there still English people when all these other guys got sent to Australia. There are Australians now. English people simply shouldn't exist. Or even smaller scale, if you moved from the Uza to Canada, but your entire family just stayed behind for obvious reasons, I wouldn't move with you. It would be really weird if you didn't understand why most of your family remains American. Think about it. I know, but you should be open to new experiences. You are essentially confusing the monkeys of the past, which in this analogy would be represented by, say, your grandparents, with the monkeys of today, represented by cousins and siblings. They aren't the same people. You're essentially saying, if I moved countries, why did my family members keep having kids / didn't immediately all die off? It's really, really dumb. I mean, this is exactly why I don't think this is a character. It just seems a little too theatrical to be a simple parody. It's, don't you see, I figured it out. It's also obvious why I'm right and don't even have to bother explaining. When, of course, he couldn't explain to save his life because his understanding of the science is so catastrophically flawed. It's not even good enough to be wrong. It's just nothing.
What, that guy used to be a friggin' duck? Stupid. The science teacher lady came up to me after a show one time, right? She comes up, she's like, excuse me. That's how they talk, right?
Yeah, so if this even happened, I'm betting that it's 1000% not how this went down. I mean, when someone comes up to you and reveals that you are in fact an ignorant jackass, when you said all your ignorant jackass shit, they're always going to be that person. Also, I feel this is just yet more demonstration that these are his legit opinions. Because who the hell is making up a story about being confronted on your own ignorant shit like that? Don't get me wrong, it's possible, but considering his lack of imagination when it comes to actual science, I can only assume that this really happened. Just, with him talking like an asshole, not the other way round.
She didn't do that. That's what make her look stupid. She's like, excuse me, can I talk to you for a second? I was like, yeah, what's going on with you?
So if we go with my projection logic, that means that he also shit himself. And apparently farting makes you look stupid somehow, but a Valley Girl accent, that's completely reasonable as a representation of an educator. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's completely impossible that that's what they spoke like. It just seems really, really unlikely. Also, the admission of at least some fabrication, again, makes this more likely. As if this was just a made-up character, she farts, and that's it. many laughs are had by his howling, ignorant audience, which is presumably filled with all of the "why are there still monkeys?" But with this oddly specific, admitted attempt to make the fake person stupid, yeah, no, this is just a thing that happened, and he's really mad about it. Because again, if it was just a joke, he would have said so and moved on. But no, now he's got to defend his stupid positions to the hilt. Otherwise, he might end up sounding like a reasonable person with an actual brain, and he wouldn't want that.
She goes, let me tell you what I think. I think you just make fun of things you don't understand. I was like, I can live with that. You're okay, stupid.
Oh, the faux self-awareness is killing me. That is an absolutely horrendous thing for you to admit. Like, seriously, it is one thing to make fun of something that you didn't really understand, but then get corrected, because then you can make fun of it so much better. Seriously, if you want to see the funniest takedown of your favorite show, or the most scathing critique of an abominable movie, it's done by someone who knows the thing back to front and upside down. Never, ever, ever by some jackass who hasn't even watched the damn thing. And that's essentially what he just said. I don't know anything about this thing, but I'm gonna say some stupid shit about it, and that's fine by me. I don't want to learn. I don't want to construct better jokes and arguments against it. I'm just going to ignorantly pontificate about a subject I am completely incapable of comprehending. You should be feckin' embarrassed, mate.
She goes, we've always had monkeys just like we do now. And since not a long time ago, a group of those monkeys broke away from the other monkeys to become people. These monkeys stayed monkeys. These monkeys became people.
Well, I can't wait for you to say something stupid about that not great explanation. An explanation that I'm pretty sure is not the one that they gave you, because it's, wrong. Again, the monkeys today are not the same ones that we all descended from. They are, in fact, a different species, or more accurately, multiple different species. Because you're thinking of it like a timeline split, where one line carries on in the same direction, which would be the same monkeys, and another group splits off to make humans. But it's far more like a tree, where they constantly split off into the different subgroups that we know of via speciation. Someone who knows the bare minimum about science would have been able to tell you that, but I'm pretty sure that you would have just barely understood it. So it is maybe possible that they oversimplified to the point of essentially being wrong, just so that you could barely grasp it. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, I'd have loved to have been at that campfire. You know what I mean? I'm sick of this crap. I want to be a dude,
I am so confused right now. Why did you spend most of that time just standing the exact way you've been doing the whole show? And for some reason, people found that funny. Odd. Anyway, absolutely not how that worked. I don't know if you genuinely think that divergence was a choice. I mean, again, it is a creationist talking point, so I would not put it past you, but no, absolutely not. The split would have been utterly out of their control and based on environmental factors. More likely, the closest thing to a choice that the groups would have made would be moving away from each other. And then the ones at the very edges of those groups would have become so substantially different until the point that they could no longer breed and were fully different species. At which point, their different paths would be essentially guaranteed, since they are basically different animals now. I'm shocked you didn't know that. No, wait, the other one.
Science is stupid. I'm sorry, but I don't believe it. I don't want to ruin what you spend your life doing, but...
If science is stupid, you must be the most terrifyingly dumb entity in all of existence. Of being so utterly incapable of coherent thought, it brings the universal IQ down to negative infinity. So, only slightly lower than most creationists already make it. But still, bye!